This is Power Hour with Gabriella Power.
Hello and welcome to Power Hour. I'm Gabriella Power. Thank you for joining us. Coming up on the show, a deep dive into 34-year-old radical socialist Zohran Mamdani.
Go ahead, make a rap for your night. It's a rap. Get the glass and the rack on your night. Spin the rack. Come through, give a dab to your night. If you really feeling good, spin a track for your night.
Also, Whoopi Goldberg crashes out on The View.
We don't know if Trump used an auto pen to part. It was a joke.
Yes. We don't know if Trump used an auto pen to part.
Come on.
But we do know that he didn't know who that crypto guy was.
Well, I'm sorry.
She's not happy, and Stephen Colbert claims he's actually a conservative.
You know, people perceive me as this sort of lefty figure. I think I'm more conservative than people think. I just happen to be talking about a government in extremis.
Joining us now is Sky News host James Morrow. James, it's great to see you again. Let's start with New York City and, of course, the new star of the Democrat Party, socialist Zohran Mamdani, who, before he wanted to be mayor of New York City, was a rapper. Look at this.
Go ahead, make a rap for your night. It's a rap. Get the glass and the rack on your night. Spin the rack. Come through, give a dab to your night. If you really feeling good, spin a track for your night. Go ahead, make a rap for your night. It's a rap. Get the glass and the rack on your night. Spin the rack. Come through, give a dab to your night. If you really feeling good, spin a track for your night.
James, this is who the people of New York City want to lead the economic capital, of the world.
Well, I mean, this is an interesting question here because Zohran Mamdani may very well be the next mayor of New York City, but when we wind up getting the final tallies of the votes of Andrew Cuomo and Curtis Sliwa, it may very well be that if you put both of those candidates together combined, you would see them get more votes than Mamdani. But this guy, Zohran Mamdani here, hard left, radical, Democrat socialist, promising all sorts of crazy stuff, government-run grocery stores, freezing the rent, free buses, all sorts of, crazy things. But here's the crazy thing here. The thing is that, the position that he's arguing from and the way that he's going with this is a way that's very hard for traditional politicians to counter because, of course, traditional politicians look at these sorts of things like, oh, well, that's not possible. Oh, you're going to chase away your tax base, or you're going to, destroy the housing market. That's not the level on which he's arguing. He's arguing on a far more emotional level. I would argue that he's arguing on a sort of almost revolutionary level. He's basically personifying a lot of the sort of the change politics that we've seen, and also a lot of the politics of revolution that we've seen come out of the October 7th protests are crystallized in this movement. So what happens here is this thing where, the whole oppressor-oppressed narrative from college campuses and everything else and the protests around October 7th suddenly gets crystallized into a new sort of form of politics here. And that's where Mamdani is going. That's why you can't actually argue rationally against what's going on here. And his voter base here appears to be this funny combination of basically what you might call trust fund kids, but, kids who went to Oberlin or Brown or something and are trying to make it in New York where it's incredibly expensive and the jobs aren't there for them in the prestige industries that they thought they might be, and they're not having their glamorous Sex in the City lifestyles, and at the same time, plus a huge number of foreign-born New Yorkers, particularly ethnic and Muslim foreign-born New Yorkers. So it's this weird sort of coalition of these two groups of people that are pushing Mamdani into Gracie Mansion, which, as a New Yorker myself, a former New Yorker, lived there for the first 25 or so years of my life. I can't tell you how distressing I find this.
No, and you're not alone. Right now, there are plenty of people packing up their bags, ready to flee New York City, to get out as fast as they can. A recent JL Partners survey that was published in the Daily Mail found that almost 800,000 New Yorkers are prepared to leave the city. And of course, New York City, it has a population of just 8.5 million. So that's a significant number of people ready to pack up their bags and go as a result of Mamdani getting in. The same survey suggests that another 25% of residents would consider leaving. And I get it. I mean, you look at what Mamdani's stance is when it comes to policing. He's previously called to defund the police. He's said some plenty of awful things about police officers. Another part of Mamdani's strategy, of course, is going on TikTok and promising rent freezes, which we'll get into in a moment. But James, just on that point of the amount of people that are ready to flee New York City, I mean, what are the consequences here?
Well, I mean, the thing is, you're not going to see 800,000 New Yorkers flee, at least certainly not right away. But it almost doesn't matter that number. What really matters, the New York City tax base is very, very steeply progressive. And if you just start to get a small number of those billionaires at the top end of the economic ladder start to say, well, no, we're going to go to Connecticut or New Jersey or Florida or Texas or some other place. I mean, I saw another story that said a lot of financial firms were looking at Texas as a potential destination to move their headquarters to. Now, these are the people who pay the taxes, all right? The way it works in America is that you have federal, state, and city income taxes. Now, this makes for a very competitive tax environment in the United States. It's not like Australia. So, a high tax jurisdiction that doesn't provide good services, and where, as I can tell you exactly what's going to happen, because I saw this happen under previous administrations. David Dinkins in the 90s, de Blasio 10 years ago. The place falls apart, trash collection goes to hell, the police go to hell, crime goes up, taxes go up. It's not a pleasant place to live. And people who have options, they go. And people who have businesses take their businesses and they take their best workers with them. And they're all taxpayers. So the tax base shrinks. And so suddenly, you wind up in a position like New York City did in the 1970s, when it essentially went bankrupt and had to be bailed out because, it was so poorly managed. This is the direction New York City is going again.
It's interesting. Hedge fund titan Cliff Asness is warning that this rent freeze that Mamdani is promising would be a hydrogen bomb for the local real estate market. He spoke to the New York Post saying that rent control is one of the few issues almost all economists agree destroys the city. Look, Donald Trump has also been posting about Mamdani. He wrote, if communist candidate Zohran Mamdani wins the election for mayor of New York City, it's highly unlikely that I will be contributing federal funds other than the very minimum as required to my beloved first home, because of the fact that as a communist, this once great city has zero chance of success or even survival. It can only get worse with a communist at the helm, and I don't want to send, as president, good money after bad. It is my obligation to run the nation, and it is my strong conviction that New York City will be a complete and total economic and social disaster should Mamdani win. Now, we know that Donald Trump can often be over the top. He makes a lot of big statements. Is he being over the top here?
I don't think so, and thank you for your attention to this matter, by the way. But no, look, I don't think he is. I mean,
no, I agree.
Whether you diagnose it as communist, strictly speaking, well, maybe that's, too far. The problem, though, is that when Trump intervenes in an election like that, which is, in a population that, let's just say they're not the biggest fans of Donald Trump in New York City.
What?
Yeah, I know. It's a big surprise to you, Gab. But yeah, no, it's the danger is, of course, that galvanizes the Mamdani vote. That's the thing. Like Mamdani is run as the anti-Trump candidate in a very anti-Trump town, and that's just the fact of it. I mean, Trump does well in places like Staten Island, which is working class borough, cops and nurses, that kind of thing. But among everybody else, no.
Now, let's talk about the shutdown, the government shutdown. The US government shutdown is set to become the longest one ever, dragging on for 36 days. Democrats have voted 14 times against a bill that would reopen the government, and Caroline Levitt has blasted the Democrats over this.
The administration is encouraging Democrats to reopen the federal government so this chaos and disruption to our air traffic control system in the United States of America stops. It is ridiculous that we have even gotten to this place and that the Democrats have continued to shut down the government with 35 days, our air traffic controllers continuing to work unpaid, every single major airline in our country coming out and begging the Democrats to please reopen the government.
James, yesterday 46% of flight delays, I should say, were due to staffing issues in air traffic control towers. So it seems like this is only getting worse, and it seems as though plenty of Americans really see through the Democrats here, that they are using this as leverage.
Yeah, the polling is showing that the Democrats aren't doing well out of this issue. Traditionally, Democrats have shut down the government and they've used it as a way to say, oh, look at these terrible Republicans. This time they've done it, and the polls actually are showing it's worse for the Democrats than it is for the Republicans. And that's really interesting because it shows that their messaging just simply isn't landing. And people understand, that in America, and just people in Australia need to understand too, it's not 50%, it's 60% to get a budget resolution through the Senate. Don't ask me why it is. It's complicated. It's just there. So even though the Republicans have a bare majority in the Senate, they can't pass a spending bill without help of the Democrats. And they're the ones completely are holding this up.
James, let's turn to California's Proposition 50, Gavin Newsom's controversial redistricting attempt, which would temporarily redraw the state's electoral maps in a way that could help Democrats flip 5 congressional seats in the 2026 midterms. Now, Donald Trump has slammed this. He wrote on Truth Social, the unconstitutional redistricting vote in California is a giant scam in that the entire process, in particular, the voting itself, is rigged. All mail-in ballots, whether Republicans in that state are shut out, is under very serious legal and criminal review. Stay tuned. What do you make of what is happening in California and Trump's warning there?
Well, what you got to see is that this is all about Gavin Newsom trying to set himself up as the anti-Trump for the 2028 election. So this is what this is about. So he's picking fights with Trump on absolutely every ground he can, including this whole plan that Trump has to basically redraw congressional districts because, frankly, in a lot of states, they're really, really lopsided. So Democrats not only get too many representatives in Congress, but also that means that the electoral votes are also misdrawn because if the census numbers are incorrect, then people are getting the wrong seats, in the wrong states. So there's 2 levels to this here. Newsom is, of course, trying to draw this huge distinction with Trump on this, but the fact is that California's districts are already a bit of a scandal. I mean, the percentage of people who vote Republican in that state versus the percentage of their congressional delegation that goes to Washington that's Republican is scandalously lopsided, probably only worse in states like Massachusetts.
Now, you won't believe this, James, and I can't believe that I'm saying this out loud, but Stephen Colbert, he's actually said something funny. Would you believe it? Look at this.
And the demographics of these shows are interesting too. It's about a third, a third, a third. It's about a third Republicans, third Democrats, third Independents. You'd think people perceive me as this sort of lefty figure. I think I'm more conservative than people think. I just happen to be talking about a government in extremis.
Yeah.
And so what I'm giving you is my reaction video to the day.
James, he's a conservative, apparently.
Well, look, I'm going to give Stephen Colbert a little bit of the benefit of the doubt on this one. Now, I'm not a huge Colbert fan. But I have sort of tracked his career over the years. He's an interesting character. He really doesn't like Trump, and let's put that to one side. But he's also one of the more actually thoughtful, if you can believe it, late night hosts out there. He's got a long Catholic background. He's more intellectually rigorous, and in the early days of Colbert, he was actually a lot less political and a lot less left wing. Now,
they were the early days, James.
They were the early days, but I'm just saying that you have to take into account the whole body of somebody's work. Yeah, sure, he may have the TDS now, but I think also he comes to his positions. I'll just say he comes to his positions probably a bit more honestly than a lot of people who are just, complete raving nutters on the topic. So I will speak up a little bit
James, I am going to completely disagree with you. I'm going to put him in the category as a complete nutter. I mean, look at this, what went to air with his push for vaccines. Look at this.
The vaccine.
James, you cannot tell me he is not a nutter.
Oh, look, that was the stupidest, most unfunny thing that I've seen in a long time, and thank you for reminding me of that. But no, all I'm saying is that Stephen Colbert is not a dope like some of these other guys. So he may have some nutty opinions, but I don't think he's like stupid deranged like some of these other guys, like your Jimmy Kimmels and things like that, or like guys like David Letterman, who. I'm dating myself here talking about David Letterman, but like was a guy who, like went from being deeply funny, deeply subversive to being the most, establishment Trump derangement critic there is. So
there's a lot of them. Yeah, there's too many. There's too many to choose from.
Put it in perspective here. Put this in perspective.
We'll never forget that vaccine craziness. Absolutely insane.
It was a funny time.
Wasn't it? James Morrow, thank you so much for joining us.
Anytime. See ya.
If you're a homeowner in America, you need to listen to this. The FBI has been warning about a type of real estate fraud on the rise called title theft, and your equity is the target. Here's how it works. Criminals forge your signature on a single document using a fake notary stamp and file it with the county, and just like that, on record, they own your home. Using your ownership, they can take out loans against your equity or even sell your property, and you won't know about it until foreclosure or collection notices show up in the mail. That's why I've partnered with Home Title Lock so you can protect your equity. And find out today if you're already a victim. Use my promo code POWER at hometitlelock.com and you'll get a free title history report and a free trial of their $1 million triple lock protection. That's 24/7 monitoring of your title records, urgent alerts to any changes, and if fraud occurs, their US-based restoration team will spend up to $1 million to fix it. Don't be a victim. Protect your equity today. That's hometitlelock.com, promo code POWER, or use the link below. It's time for Media Meltdowns. And which leftist media outlet has the most severe case of Trump derangement syndrome? Is it the New York Times, MSNBC, CNN? Well, it might just be the BBC, because it's been revealed the BBC doctored Donald Trump's January 6th speech to make it appear as though he was encouraging his supporters to riot in the Capitol. A leaked 19-page dossier obtained by The Telegraph found the documentary, Trump: A Second Chance, misled viewers by editing clips of Donald Trump's speech to make it seem like he incited the riot at the US Capitol. Look at this.
We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and I'll be there with you, and we fight. We fight like hell. We're going to walk down to the Capitol, and we're going to cheer on our brave senators and congressmen and women.
Yeah, British taxpayers funding fake news there. But let's take a look at what's being shown on American media outlets. And it hasn't been a good week for The View's Whoopi Goldberg. After lying about Donald Trump using an auto pen, which he didn't because he's not Joe Biden, Whoopi was subtly and politely fact-checked on air by co-host Sunny Hostin. And how did Whoopi take it? Well, let's take a look, starting with her original comments.
The Trump family has made about $1.8 billion profited off of this government. And he said that Joe Biden didn't know who he was pardoning using an auto pen. How come he don't know who this guy is?
Because he used an auto pen. Meetings with the judge, the meetings that they're supposed to go to when they're listening to what the hell, what?
I love when Sonny passes notes.
We don't know if Trump used an auto pen to part. It was a joke.
Yeah. We don't know if Trump used an auto pen.
Come on.
But we do know that he didn't know who that crypto guy was.
Well, I'm sorry. You know, the hardest thing about this job now is no one understands nuance. You know when you hear a joke, when somebody's fooling around, when they're not saying something specific, especially on this show. I'm very specific when I'm pointing stuff out. When I'm making jokes, you know when I'm making jokes. This is ridiculous. Anywho, the other thing that really upsets me about all of this.
Look at her crashing out. I mean, the hardest part of her job is that no one understands nuance. I think it might be for Whoopi getting her facts correct, or at least clarifying that she's made a mistake. No, Whoopi is a comedian making jokes non-stop on that show, apparently. Also this week, President Trump returned to 60 Minutes, where the president reminded host Norah O'Donnell that CBS News had to pay Donald Trump a lot of money over the previous interview with Kamala Harris, where they edited that interview to make her sound better than she actually was. But during this interview, the president spoke about his crime crackdown, particularly in DC, and he challenged the journalist who lives in DC to be honest about whether the streets are safer.
Well, you tell me, how big a difference is D.C. now compared to what it was a year ago, right? I mean, you have to be honest with me. People walk,
not denying
people in
it.
the White House, they walk up to me, young ladies I've never seen, sir, thank you very much. I know, they don't even have to tell me what they're thanking me for. But when I ask why, he said, one girl said, I'd get into Uber, and I felt dangerous even in Uber. They'd attack the car, okay? It wasn't even safe then. Sir, I now walk to work every day, and I'm so safe. There's nothing going to happen, 100% safe. And you know that too, Nora.
I want to ask you about
You
this.
live here, you know that too.
I want to ask you about
Do you see a difference?
American
Do you
cities
see a difference?
in Washington, D.C.
Yes.
I think I've been working too hard. I haven't been out and about.
Oh, that's not a fair answer. You see a difference.
I get in my car and go to work and I go home.
You don't have to use that one. Don't worry. Don't worry. I don't want to embarrass you.
I've been working too hard.
It's like, you know what the difference is? Like day and night.
Joining us now is CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair. Thank you so much for joining us once again, CJ. I mean, what an excuse. If all she does is work, she can at least acknowledge the crime stats that show that crime has absolutely plummeted in DC. But CJ, I know you are sending me a therapy bill for all this leftist media I've been consuming and then I've been forcing you to watch as well. But what's your assessment of all of that? I mean, you've got the BBC doctoring Donald Trump's speech. You've got Whoopi Goldberg absolutely crashing out over being fact-checked. And Trump's return to 60 Minutes there.
You know, it's part of the course for all of those people, you know, so I'm not actually all that surprised. You know, Whoopi Goldberg, you know, described what she was saying, which was a blatant lie, as simply a joke. I was under the impression that jokes are supposed to be funny. But of course, you know, just simply a cop-out. She knew that she was lying. She knew that she was speaking, you know, falsely about President Trump, but she thought she wouldn't be corrected. But thankfully, we live in a new era of accountability where President Trump has been governing with the FAFO doctrine. And she was very afraid, as I'm sure the legal counsel in her ear was very afraid, that they would be held accountable for spreading that lie about President Trump. Here's the deal. You know, there's a very clear difference between President Trump and Joe Biden. You know, first and foremost, their cognitive ability. We have a president now who actually knows that he is president. We didn't have that under Joe Biden. And so this insinuation that somehow, some way that President Trump isn't mentally all there, when every single day we hear from him speaking to the press with vitality, with energy, and just absolutely, like, I try to compare my energy to his, and I think he laps me in some cases, right? It's just silly to me that they try to gaslight the American people to believing that he's somehow unwell.
I think about that too. I mean, his energy levels are unbelievable. Let's talk about former First Lady Michelle Obama, because she's complaining again. This time, she's insisting that her family didn't get the grace that other first families got. Listen to this.
You said we were all too aware that as a first black couple, we couldn't afford any missteps. And you also say, as a black woman, I was under a particularly white hot glare. Did you feel that?
For sure. You can't afford to get anything wrong because you didn't get at least until the country came to know us, we didn't get the grace that I think some other families have gotten.
CJ, doesn't she love to play that victim card? The truth is, the Obamas were treated far better than other families. And you look at the way Michelle Obama was treated compared to Melania Trump. I mean, you can't even compare it.
You know, it's their favorite card in their wallet, the race card, right? And to be quite frank, you know, you look at the treatment of Melania Trump, who is probably, inarguably, objectively, one of the most beautiful first ladies we've ever seen, who has been boycotted by every major fashion magazine from their covers, right? Yet they have folks like Hillary Clinton on them and, you know, folks like her on them that they hail as like the second coming of Christ. It's absolutely insane. I also am old enough to remember when you had, you know, folks on the left like, you know, Kathy Griffin, whose name I actually struggle to remember there because of how irrelevant she's become, who was musing about the death of President Trump and also basically speculating about whether or not Barron Trump suffered from a mental disability. Like these were people who were openly saying these things without any shame, without any embarrassment, because they felt as if they had a permission slip to do so. So this entire like, oh, we felt as if we were mistreated. I'm sure Barron Trump felt mistreated. I'm sure Eric Trump and Don Jr. felt mistreated when they had to endure the lawfare at the hands of the Biden DOJ that they were subjected to. And not just the lawfare under the Biden DOJ, but also the deep state when President Trump was even in the White House from the bowels of the Department of Justice here in the States. And so, yeah, I honestly, I don't know who she's trying to convince with this narrative, but I'm not buying it. I don't think many of the American people are either. No, absolutely not. Former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi, who somehow has a net worth of hundreds of millions of dollars, has gone on CNN to rant about Donald Trump for, you know, something new. And she called him the worst thing on the face of the earth. Watch this.
He's just a vile creature, the worst thing on the face of the earth. But anyway.
You think he's the worst thing on the face of the earth?
I do, yeah, I do.
Why is that?
Because he's the President of the United States and he does not honor the Constitution of the United States. In fact, he's turned the Supreme Court into a rogue court. He's abolished the House of Representatives.
I mean, the fact that you've got CNN pushing back against what Nancy Pelosi is saying about Donald Trump says a lot, doesn't it? But really, to describe him as the worst thing on the face of the earth, I mean, how many global conflicts has the president solved just this year? I mean, bringing historic peace to the Middle East? Anyone? Cracking down on crime in liberal cities?
Right, exactly that. And I would actually describe the worst person on the face of the earth as one of the left's passionate followers who killed Charlie Kirk, who's currently sitting in a jail in the state of Utah. So maybe Nancy needs to, I don't know, open her eyes and into the reality that we currently find ourselves in as a country. But here's the deal. You know, all of these people know how to do is speak in hyperbole and absolutely just live in a constant state of crashing out. Like it's actually unwell. These people need Xanax. Like to say with a straight face, he's abolished the House of Representatives, a body of which she is a member, a body of which, you know, she reports to work, not often, you know, unfortunately, or maybe fortunately for us, but, you know, it's actually crazy. These people just lie straight through their teeth. And what she actually should be doing is encouraging her colleagues in the United States Senate to reopen our government so that our military service members can actually get paid, so that, you know, folks that are, you know, getting government benefits that actually need it, not folks that are using it and abusing it, but actually need it, children don't go hungry. But instead, she wants to go on CNN and spread these lies about President Trump that are absolutely divorced from reality. Give me a break.
Democrat John Fetterman is having none of it, slamming Nancy Pelosi for her comments. Listen to this.
I would say that's part of the worst creatures on the face of the earth are Hamas, or like the leadership of Iran, or there's a lot of people on that. I would never use those kind of terms, and I wouldn't describe our president. You can really disagree with him, and I do disagree, but I don't think that's really entirely appropriate, but that's her words for that. So for me, that's just a different kinds of a Democrat for me. I don't gonna call people they're fascists, they're Nazis, or compare the people in those kinds of terms.
He makes sense, CJ. And John Fetterman, he's also blasted Democrats, arguing that they need to own their role in the federal government shutdown.
He is, and God bless him for it. Every time he opens his mouth, he's beginning to sound more and more like a Republican. So hopefully, I think he'll find his way over here. We'll welcome him with open arms. He may have to wear a suit if he becomes a Republican, but, we'll take him as he is.
Now, one of the issues that the Democrats seem to really be fighting on is keeping illegals in the country. They're, of course, against ICE agents doing their job. They're against Donald Trump carrying out his promise of deporting illegals. And this voter went on Fox News with a bit of a truth bomb for the left.
The difference between being kind, and to me, my faith is one thing is being nice to people from different lands, but they also have to be respectful of our laws. And everybody wants to come to the United States because we have a great economy, have a lot of opportunity, but there's a process to do that. My family has been here since at least the 1700s. There's no one that's gave us a free $1,400 debit card. No one gave us a free apartment. No one gave us anything free. We had to work for it. So there is a process. And if we respect all people, that means that the people that come here need to respect our laws. And that's all that we're saying. We allowed 20 million immigrants in here legally since 2000. How much is too much, and how much are we going to put the burden on the taxpayers? Because the money has to come from somewhere. Yeah. It's just common sense.
CJ, some common sense there. So I'm sure the left will find a way to call this guy radical.
It's incredibly, an incredible example of common sense, but unfortunately, common sense is far too uncommon in the modern day Democrat Party. But he's exactly spot on. One of the cornerstones of being an American is not believing in two tiers of justice. And I think that applies to the illegal immigration problem in this country. If you are an American citizen, whether you're white or you're black, and you broke the laws of our land, you would be thrown in jail. So why should we allow these people to show a complete disrespect for our laws, infiltrate our country, and not say, no, you got to go back to where you came? It's not rocket science. It's not a hard thing to understand. But also, too, I know that's not a hard thing to understand because the majority of Americans understand it. It's exactly why they voted for President Trump. They gave him the mandate he did. These things are not like random things that he just came up with after he got elected. He said, I'm just going to do mass deportations and send all these people back from where they came. No, he ran on that every single day, every single night. He said that he was going to do exactly this. And I think the thing that probably bewilders Washington the most is he's a politician that's actually keeping his promise. That's exactly why the American people respect him so much and put him right exactly where he is at 1600 Pennsylvania Avenue.
I know, isn't it wild, keeping a promise? Now, woke Hollywood celebrities, of course, love to make it known how much they hate Donald Trump, but the penny seems to have dropped for actress Jennifer Lawrence when it comes to how people vote and how many people seem to just ignore what Hollywood actors actually have to say.
You have been politically outspoken in the past. Mm-hmm. In the first Trump administration, you had a lot to say. I'm curious how you feel about talking out now.
I don't really know if I should. I think the first Trump administration was so wild, and just how can we let this stand? I felt like I was running around like a chicken with my head cut off. But as we've learned, election after election, celebrities do not make a difference whatsoever on who people vote for. And so then what am I doing? I'm just sharing my opinion on something that's going to just add fuel to a fire that's ripping the country apart.
Yeah, I think someone needs to tell George Clooney that.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm glad that Jennifer Lawrence has come to this epiphany that was pretty apparent to the rest of us with functioning brains a long time ago. But I'm glad, some of us are a little slower than others. So welcome to the reality, Jennifer. But, here's the thing. I think she is actually spot on in the sense that the American people a long time ago realized that we were not going to allow Hollywood elites to dictate the direction of this country. And thank God for that. But what I hope she understands now is that, she should actually go outside of her, cosmopolitan, posh lifestyle and go talk to real Americans about what's going on, and go into the inner cities of, across America. And you'll actually hear from, Black families and Black mothers, single Black mothers who are saying, thank God for President Trump for taking action, sending the National Guard. So now that my child can go play on the sidewalk, thank him, for creating jobs here at home by his, implementing the tariffs that he has. And so I got to say, again, I hope that this is a first step to recovery for her. And I hope that there are many more steps to come, because I think she's so close, but we're not we're not quite past the
We're
finish
not there
line
yet. No, that's absolutely right. Look, finally, before I let you go, quickly, Barack Obama, he's being slammed after headlining a Virginia rally for Democratic nominee for governor Abigail Spanberger, which included an appearance by Attorney General candidate Jay Jones. Now, of course, we remember Jay Jones spoke in detail about the fantasy of murdering former House Speaker Todd Gilbert and his children. It was absolutely horrific reading some of those text messages. And Obama, he doesn't seem to have a problem with this, CJ.
No, it's disgusting, but again, par the course, unsurprising for these Democrats. It's one set of rules for them, another set of rules for us. And that's exactly what I've always said. This political violence issue, they always try to make this seem as if it's on both sides issue. It is not. The bullets are coming from left to right. And when it comes to actually showing leadership and condemning political violence when it actually matters, they did not meet the moment. They did not pass the test, and we should never let them forget it. Jay Jones has no business being the chief law enforcement of Virginia when he is wishing death upon not only his political opponents, but their families and their little children as well. It's just god awful. And hopefully the people of Virginia reject him and ensure that he never steps foot in that office.
Absolutely. CJ Pearson, RNC Youth Advisory Council co-chair, thank you so much for joining us.
Good to see you.
Joining us now is Andrew Eborn, barrister and broadcaster and president of Octopus TV. Andrew, lovely to see you again.
Always a joy to see you, Gabriella.
The royal family is wasting no time severing and removing ties with Andrew Mountbatten Windsor, formerly known as Prince Andrew. He's being evicted from his Royal Lodge home and will move to a private residence on the King's Sandringham estate. But it's interesting, his name is now missing from the royal website. It appears to have been completely removed, Andrew.
Absolutely. What I find extraordinary, Gabriella, within minutes of airing our programme last week, every single one of the predictions that I made came true. We got over 1 million views, as we do each week, of our glorious appearances together. The King has stripped him of his various titles. He's removed the titles and honours of Prince Andrew. And now if you go and have a look at the royal website, he is nowhere to be seen, apart from one place, which I'll tell you about in a moment. But yes, he's been expunged from that sort of side. They want to put it all behind it. It's been a tsunami of scandals, and those scandals continue. But as far as the royal website is concerned, he has been removed.
There are even suggestions that Andrew Windsor will be fleeing the UK. He'll move abroad and will vanish from public view, possibly in an Arabian palace with Fort Knox-style security, according to some royal experts. Andrew, what's your prediction?
Well, I like the idea from going from scandals to sandals. That's what it would be, wouldn't it? Off to Abu Dhabi. And I'll tell you why. Is he's quite chums with the people over there, and he could live in absolute luxury. The press doesn't enjoy the same sort of freedoms as we have here, Gabriella, so he won't necessarily have all of that scrutiny. And he's had quite a long friendship with the people over there. And in fact, his daughters have been invited to things like the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. They've received all sorts of gifts and so on and so forth. But that certainly could be the future for him. It was talked about that originally, having been booted out, thrown out of Royal Lodge, the talk was that he might go to Sandringham. And I predict if that's going to happen, that would be after Christmas, because you'll recall that they are desperate not to have him around the Monopoly board at Christmas time. So if he is going to move, and it takes a little while to pack up those 30 rooms in Royal Lodge, then it's possibly Sandringham. But I wouldn't rule out a side abroad, because it'd be much more confidential over there. And the destination, if that's true, a lot of people are predicting it's a 16,000 square foot, 6-bedroom palace in a gated enclave with 30-foot hedges, armed guards, double checkpoints, private beaches, and media censorship. Well, that can't be too bad, can it?
Well, it's interesting. It appears that there are no plans to remove Andrew from the line of succession. Of course, he's been removed from the website and he's getting kicked out of Royal Lodge, but he is the 8th in line to the throne, with the government not planning to pass the law needed to actually remove him from the line of succession. Does this surprise you, Andrew?
Well, it is a bit surprising, isn't it? I mean, such a move does require the full act of Parliament, unlike the royal warrant that stripped him of his title. I did mention earlier that there's one side which the family have missed on the royal website, and that is in the line of succession. So get your screen grab now. It's a world exclusive, because I can guarantee the palace, having watched this program, they watch and listen to every single word that you and I utter. They'll be going having a look at that side, because in the line of succession, it still says in 8th position, the Duke of York. Now, there's a big mistake there. Whoever's looking at the website is not looking at it closely enough. But yes, he is still in line for the throne. He is still number 8, and it would take a disastrous act for him to get there. But that is the current rules and regulations.
It's also been revealed and also been come to light that Andrew arranged a private tour of Buckingham Palace while the late Queen was in residence for businessmen from a cryptocurrency mining firm, which agreed to pay his ex-wife Fergie up to £1.4 million. That's according to the BBC. What more can you tell us about this?
Well, yes, this was June 2019. He personally arranged this VIP Buckingham Palace tour that Her late Majesty Queen Elizabeth was in residence. It was this crypto firm called Pegasus Group. It should be Phoenix rising from the ashes, but it was days after they hired his ex-wife, Sarah Ferguson, as a brand ambassador for £1.4 million for this solar generated scheme. Well, the family motto should therefore be monetize the monarchy, shouldn't it? But it's not networking, it's nepotism on steroids, served with a side of sovereign swagger, is what I would say. But it's not the first time that they've been peddling access. You might remember I previously spoke about in 2010 when Sarah Ferguson was caught in a sting for the News of the World, the then News of the World, and she was basically caught in a sting for offering access to Prince Andrew, son of Andrew as he now is. Nobody wants that access now. But apparently she was offered £500,000, £500,000 for that access. That's what happened then. And more scandal is being leaked out now.
There are so many scandals. It's unbelievable, just the amount of scandals that surround no longer Prince Andrew Mountbatten Windsor. Now, Queen Elizabeth's, or late Queen Elizabeth's corgis were passed on to Andrew and Fergie as their daughters had presented the Queen with the pets to help her through a difficult time. But the pets came with a long list of strict instructions, especially when it came to feeding time. Andrew, talk to us about this.
Oh, I love it. Out of the doghouse, but still in charge of the dogs. I love it. It's got to be good. So what happened in 2022, basically, upon her death, Queen Elizabeth, she left the corgis, Muick and Sandy is what they're called, to Andrew and Sarah Ferguson. As you rightly say, this was because they were given to the Queen by her granddaughters, Princess Beatrice, 37, and Princess Eugenie, 35. They were bought for the Queen to distract her from the stress of her husband Prince Philip's hospital stay in 2022. But the list of demands is quite extraordinary, from poached pheasant to so on and so forth, to the wonderful sort of diet that they have, something which you and I would absolutely cherish. So it's working on that sort of basis. So corgi custody with caveats is what I would call it. Having a look at that gourmet grub, there's no shortcuts. It's going to be very interesting because when Andrew's going to be moving out, they did say it's going to stay within the family at Buckingham Palace. They issued that public statement. We're not quite sure what the family means, whether Andrew and Sarah basically will be taking them with them, or whether other members of the royal family might keep them within Windsor.
Okay, well, I know you'll bring us right up to speed as soon as we get the news.
I'll be there in Windsor for you.
You will. You'll be breaking it with a world exclusive for us. Now, let's talk about Prince William. Now, he's attempting to leave this Andrew scandal behind with a trip to Brazil, where he's been mobbed by royal fans. Talk to us about his trip.
Well, Prince William, ruthless Prince William, as we always say, because he got his wish, didn't he? He got rid of his uncle, snubbed out. He's hoping to leave the scandal behind, and he's been mobbed in Brazil. He's been trading tiaras for tangos and toxicity for triumphs, is what I would say. It's a royal reinvention, swapping scandals for sugarloaf selfies. That's what he's doing. So what he's doing, he's over in Brazil for this wonderful trip. He's going to be there for his Earthshot prize and also for the big COP summit over there. He's going to be making a speech there. But the great publicity, they adore him over there. He's being mobbed. He went to play football, but he loves his football, and he played there. He played against a girls' team as well and managed to score a goal, something English players don't necessarily do in penalties. But it's all good stuff. But that is the distraction at the moment. That's hitting the headlines, and he's certainly doing that with a tremendous degree of success.
And the Prince and Princess of Wales, Prince William, Princess Catherine, along with their children, they have moved into their new home, their forever home at Forest Lodge in Windsor Great Park, and sooner than expected, Andrew.
Well, that's right. This is what they were. So it was half term, I can reveal to you. That's probably why it was a convenient time to pack everything up and go over there. They call it their forever home. I spoke about it first when they sort of moved to Forest Lodge. I wouldn't be surprised, however, Gabriella, if they think now that that much bigger place is available, they might sneak along to that Royal Lodge, that 30-room, once the stench of Andrew has disappeared. So that may happen. But that's what's going to happen on that sort of basis. They're moving to what they called previously their forever home. We've also got Kate, Princess Catherine's coming out. We've got her cancer comeback. She basically, she's got her Christmas carol service, which she's been doing every year for a number of years. And I think what's going to happen is we're going to see her return to host that event. She's been doing it since 2021. It's the annual Christmas carol. Obviously, it happens in Westminster Abbey. And this will be the 5th year since she launched the event. And it'll be the first since she announced her remission from cancer. It would be great. And the public would absolutely wonder at that sort of side. So that's a good stage for the royal family. And we wish Princess Catherine well.
Absolutely. Meghan Markle, she shared a Christmas recipe on Instagram via her lifestyle brand As Ever, showing herself preparing a festive spice cider drink in the kitchen of her Montecito mansion. Now, it's not being received well, surprise, surprise. People are kind of saying it's actually a little bit more than just hot water with spices.
I love it. It's got to be good. Every week, isn't it? We get the wonderful more megalomania, as I keep calling it, and more Montecito madness. This is what it is. It's Meghan's mulled mirage, boiled water with delusions is what I would call it. And it costs an absolute fortune. It's hot water with a $20 spice sprinkle is what it is.
Wow.
Because nothing screams holiday magic like monetizing the mundane. Oh, it is quite extraordinary. It's basically a tea bag which you put in your hot water and you make this spice thing. She does say, however, that you can add something to make it a bit more exciting. You can add a bit of that honey, which she sells for a huge amount. There you go. So you can basically add a spoonful of honey which costs $32, about $50 Australian, and cinnamon sticks and lemongrass for your ultimate cider drink in the festive season. You tempted, Gabriella?
Oh, well, you know what? There's more, Andrew. Meghan Markle's now trying to sell scented candles. Yes, Meghan Markle recently added candles to her As Ever repertoire, which are available for purchase via the website. So Meghan, she's selling a grand total of 2 candles, Andrew. And, you know, this doesn't surprise me. I mean, she's offered so many other things. She's been trying to flog the jams for some time and then the wine. So it makes sense that scented candles were the new thing.
Well, they certainly are. And doesn't it get on your wick? See what I did there? I love it. She calls it the number 519, and the date is relevant because that is her 2018 wedding date. She's pricing it at $63. Can you believe it? And it's part of the As Ever holiday collection. She's basically, as you say, she's got a grand total of 2 candles, including the signature candle number 519. And features, I love the description. Let me read the description for you. It features notes of Moroccan mint, cardamom, and tea leaves. It's bright and refreshing with quietly grounding notes of Moroccan mint leaf, while white tea leaves, and a back note of woodsy cardamom. Number 519 fills the room with a soothing, welcoming fragrance that remains our founder's tried and true favourite. It's also housed, you'll be delighted to hear, in a beautiful ceramic vessel. This candle is hand poured. Hand poured, can you believe it? Not by Meghan, I can guarantee that.
What about the flower sprinkles? Andrew, it seems to be missing flower sprinkles. I mean, she can't be selling scented candles without flower sprinkles.
I'll tell you what she should do. She should do, and you can predict this as well, she should do a 30-10 candle, which is the day that Prince Andrew was extinguished and all of his royal titles disappeared. So watch that space for one of those.
Brilliant. Absolutely love it. Andrew Eborn, thank you so much for joining us. Great to speak with you.
Pleasure as always, Gabriella. See you next week.
That is Power Hour. Thank you for your company. We'll see you next week. Make sure you subscribe to Sky News Australia on YouTube.